am the man who grabs the sun, riding to Valhalla!
Welcome to the Mad Max Minute. You can grab the sun all you want, but please don't look directly at it. Rather, just be like us and stare directly at Mad Max Fury Road 1 minute at a time. I'm Rick.
And I'm Julia.
And today we're talking about minute 30, which begins with Nux flooding his car with gasoline, and it ends with Nux's car being destroyed by the war rig. Wrapping up the week with us is our resident expert on British iconography, Johnie Powers from Austin Powers Minute, and our resident expert on billionaires who like to dress up in black rubber suits to beat up poor people, Niall McGowan from the Batminute podcast.
Hello, yes.
Wow, that's quite an intro.
Oh, that's accurate.
Welcome back.
Thanks for having us back.
Yeah,
Now, you would think that I would be more kind to Niall's property, considering he's a guest in our home, but we are not a Batman-friendly home.
No, we're not.
That's interesting.
Because he is a billionaire who dresses in black rubber and beats up poor people.
yeah, we have discussed this on Batminute before. Yeah, it is kind of like Batman is Bruce Wayne. At least is like the 1%, and he is laying into people who are, a lot of them obviously have like deranged psychopaths like the Joker and stuff. But he's like, yeah, he deserves what he gets. But there are like a lot of the small time hoodlums. Is a bit like, yeah, I guess he is just sort of like big rich guy coming in, getting his kicks by like punching the teeth out of some people who just like need to steal to survive and stuff. But
I've definitely said this before, but Batman needs a Luke Cage to basically whap him up the back of the head and be like, dude, you have more power than just your batty detective skills. You can go after these people in power. And I say that he needs a Luke Cage because that's exactly what happens in the Iron Fist Netflix show. Luke Cage says, hey, stop beating up poor people in my neighborhood. Go after the corporate guys that are ruining this whole city.
You mean the most annoying Marvel series on the Netflix?
Yes.
Yeah.
As annoying as Danny Rand is, anytime Luke Cage is around.
It's good, but like the rest of the series is...
Yeah.
Exactly.
I will say though, like there is, sometimes it has been addressed within Batman mythos. One of the most memorable times is in the animated series episode where you see why Dick Grayson quit being Robin and went to become Nightwing is because he started having disagreements with the way Bruce was doing things. And there's one scene where Batman's interrogating a guy who's wrapped up in some criminal activity, who's just a family man who's just trying to do it to make money to make ends meet and stuff. And Batman comes in and like viciously interrogates this guy in front of his family, and Robin's going, "You can't! What are you doing? His kids are here. You can't do this in front of them." And Batman's like, "Just like, shut up! I'll do what I want." And you find out afterwards, like at that point, Robin's like, "The hell with this! I'm out of here. You're nuts, man." You find out that Bruce Wayne did in fact hire that man later on and gave him a good living wage and stuff. So he's doing the Batman thing to terrorize criminality. Whereas Bruce Wayne, his other half, can in some way aid people by giving them gainful employment and stuff like that. So he, they've dealt with it kind of within Batman in the past. But he's a good guy. He's scary. He's wearing a goofy outfit, but he's a good guy.
Listen, in this house we stan Nightwing, so.
Oh yeah, you should, as you should.
I also stan Furiosa.
In this house, if we're gonna be wearing black leather, it's going to be because it's an apocalypse.
I do have to ask, like, Johnie and Julia, like, because I knew a lot of people, a lot of women who really, for many obvious reasons, really took the Furiosa as a character. And, like, I know there's even people within the Movies by Minutes community I've seen, like, cosplaying Furiosa and stuff in the past. But, like, I knew women who wanted to shave their heads and stuff been inspired by the character. Like, did you guys ever go that far with your Furiosa fandom where you want to get like the buzz cuts to emulate her, or was it just like, nah, it's just pretty cool character?
I wanted to shave my head once, but it was really just because I had a bad haircut. And it would have been better. No, I appreciate Furiosa, and I I recognize that she is a feminist icon that the world needed at the time and still needs, quite frankly. But I generally don't get that passionate about subjects like that. So, she's cool, but,
Yeah, I never wanted to shave my head. I think the only reason that I was so excited about her was she kind of opened accessibility a little bit with cosplay, because it was really wonderful to see like amputees get really excited about cosplaying her too.
Oh, yeah.
And just opening like the conversation with like, this is a disabled character basically. So it's creating, I don't know, inclusivity along with the cosplay community that should already be there.
Yeah, we've mentioned it once before, and I love this thing. In 2015, you had Rey and you had Furiosa. And Furiosa was great because she was a mature person with life experience. She wasn't bright, doe-eyed, oh, this is all new to me. She had been through the ringer, and yet she was still defiant and powerful in the face of overwhelming odds.
I think like what I liked about Furiosa as well is that they don't. You get a lot of sometimes you get particularly more recent things when mostly male directors and writers and stuff, when they try to have like a strong female character, they go into this default mode of like they're just badass. They're just like they're infallible badasses because they don't want to introduce. I guess maybe they're kind of scared to introduce flaws because they think it might open them up to criticism. Like that's one of my few things I had against like Into the Spider-Verse was like a amazing film. But then the material Spider-Gwen, it's like, yeah, she's a very dry character. She's just a badass. That's all you can really take away from her and stuff. Whereas Furiosa, she does have this, the indication about the character is that she's done something horrible in the past that she is trying to redeem herself for. And it's just, it gives her as much mystery as Max has as well. And obviously he's going through his own, like, PTSD about the people he left behind and stuff as well. So the fact that they have Furiosa there as a character who's obviously done something that she's inherently not proud of, and she's not a perfect character, that she is in fact in seeking redemption. I thought that was alongside being this great representative for as Johnie said for amputees and just for women as a gender as well. It's like it's a really well done, very subtly done character as well. Like it's a great job all around. Can't say enough good things about this movie, basically, is what I'm trying to get to through all this.
We often forget, and we definitely should remind ourselves often, that for a long time, Furiosa has been Immortan Joe's Imperator. You don't get to drive the war rig on a whim. Like, you've got to be a pretty damn good Imperator, a pretty loyal soldier to a pretty awful person in order to get that sort of recognition.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't want to go in too much, but consider you're talking like, in this year we got Furiosa and we got Rey. But then Furiosa, I would say that almost as a character has more in common with Finn. Because he's sort of like, he was a stormtrooper who just defected. And then, at least so far in those two movies, I don't think we've never seen much guilt out of him. He just seems to be kind of this, just constantly panicking and trying to eventually trying to do the right thing, but always just sort of out for his own skin and then trying to run away, basically. And then going no, I need to stand up and do something and stuff. But there's, it's kind of like there's the same character, the same baggage, or a similar baggage at least. But I think maybe, despite the fact she only has one movie and very sparse dialogue, you kind of get more out of Furiosa, maybe? Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. I'm sure there's many people who have strong feelings in Star Wars, who I'm sure will be happy to correct me on that if they perceive me as being wrong.
I think the reason I bring up Star Wars so often is because I'm also on the side listening to the You Are Awaited podcast with Yuri Lowenthal and Travis Sentel, and they spend an awful lot of time talking about Star Wars, but not in a positive way. I can't remember if it was Yuri or Travis on the top of my head that did not like Force Awakens at all. So they're constantly bringing it up as a counterpoint to Fury Road. But I will say this about Finn. He switches awfully fast from being a stormtrooper to being okay at shooting at other stormtroopers. And Furiosa doesn't spend all that much time specifically shooting at warboys.
Yeah.
Like when you think of her interactions with Ace before they actually got to the storm, sure, she didn't tell him the whole truth, and she eventually did punch him in the face with the barrel of her gun, but it's not like she specifically took any sort of pride or glee in destroying her former comrades. Now, saying that, I also need to highlight that in Wednesday's Minute, she did drive that war rig awfully close to a toxic tornado, and if Monaro got swept up and blown away, any war boys that were hanging out on the top of that tanker are also gone now.
But every time she has attacked a war boy, it's been defensive.
Exactly. She's not hunting them down.
Nope. Her interest is only in escaping.
But does Finn hunt them down? I feel like his is a lot defensive as well.
Ooh, it's been too long since I've seen the movie.
I see Niall's point, and I raise him the part of where he goes on his jaunt with Rose. And that's, I think, where his turning point is. He feels all the guilt.
Oh, okay.
Because he's like seeing what his old side used to do to the galaxy and what he was a part of.
Yeah.
And then he decides instead of jumping ship, he's actually going to full on join the resistance.
Yeah.
120%.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes that little bit of something to alter your mindset. And I bring up altered mindsets because Nux has started putting in action a plan that is going to, I am assuming in his mind, disable the rig and eventually allow Joe to reclaim his wives. He has started filling his car with gasoline. He pulls a couple of gas lines on the floor. He opens up a valve by the back of his seat. He takes hold of a hatch and opens it up so the gas just flows out into the car. And there are too many things in this car for me not to believe that this is a pre-built-in strategy for this style of vehicle.
Oh, definitely.
The whole rolling bomb thing has got to be a feature and not a bug. And I brought up altered mindsets because gasoline vapor can affect your mind. The Illinois Department of Public Health has a website that talks all about the dangers of inhaling gasoline. Gasoline has a lot of chemicals in it, and when you breathe all of those chemicals in, not only can it irritate your nose and throat, but it'll give you headaches, it'll make you dizzy, nauseous, you could vomit, you'll be very confused, have difficulty breathing. You're gonna get out of your regular mindset if you're in a situation where your air supply is quickly filling with gasoline vapor.
Yeah.
And then he follows that up with the silver paint, which we've already discussed, we believe has other things in it.
Oh, yeah.
When I first saw the movie, I wasn't too sure. Like, I was like, is he just spraying paint in his face? And it's like, oh, maybe he's marking himself for glory, I guess is the thing. But then because of the speeded up footage and stuff of it, I thought that, yeah, it's supposed to be implied that it's like giving him like a hit of something. That it's like, it's got like, I don't know, some sort of chemical adrenaline or something like that. That's like giving him an extra, like, you know, kind of a boost to do something. Because it just, in the way that it, you know, that shot is, it seems to speed up the footage or something. It's something very erratic about the way it's done that would indicate to me that, yeah, there's something else at play here than just a simple spraying of silver paint.
Yeah, that was our hypothesis as well, that sure, it's paint, but it's also probably got other things added into it.
Yeah.
To enhance its features.
That's the thing is, like, this was almost instantaneously sort of not ruined, but it's sidelined in, because now we're living in the age of memes, basically. And as soon as, pretty much after this movie came out, straight away people were already making comparisons between this and that one scene in It's Always Sunny where Charlie Day is huffing silver paint out of a sock, and it kind of glares up and he has like the silver paint all over his nose and stuff. That's when he's writing the Dayman song and the big famous episode of the show. And it's just the fact, like, yeah, it's pretty much the same weekend as I saw this movie. I was seeing pictures of screenshots of that with "Witness Me" and stuff written all over it and stuff. So it got to a point where I was kind of like, was like in my head, I was like, It's Always Sunny, was that a deliberate Mad Max reference? Until I remembered, like, no, that episode was like 3 or 4 years before the movie even came out and stuff.
Yeah.
But now it's so synonymous with it now. It's like, I can't separate the two at all.
One thing's for sure, edible paint spray definitely got a huge boost from this movie.
There's edible paint spray?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Wilton makes it.
That's
the cake decorating company.
Straight up, just like, hey, you should have paint. I'm co-signing.
So like people
paint.
seeing Johnie in future now just constantly with paint just around their mouth and stuff.
No, definitely not. I think that would freak me out. I'd be like, what's in this? I know it says it's edible, but like, what's in this?
It may be edible, but from all of the instances I've seen of people taking the food spray and spraying it over their mouths, their first reaction is, ugh, this tastes terrible.
Right. It's made to be like sprayed sparingly on a cake, usually over fondant, which you don't generally eat anyways.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's edible. It's not going to poison you, but it's not so much meant to be consumed.
But it's meant to help you cosplay war dogs.
Yes, it is.
That's all this is.
So Nux, as he's filling his car with gasoline, says a phrase that really stood out to me. He shouts, "I am the man who grabs the sun, riding to Valhalla." And he shouts it very enthusiastically, and he follows that up by turning around, looking at Max and yelling, "Witness me, bloodbag." And I stopped for a moment, and I was like, is there a thing in Norse mythology about grabbing the sun? Is that a thing?
There's a thing. There's a thing. So, in Norse mythology, there is a brother-sister pair. The sister is named Sol, she is the sun. The brother is named Mani, he is the moon. And they ride on chariots, each in their turn, the sun and the moon. There are also two wolves, each one chasing the sun and the moon. The wolf that chases the sun is called Skull, which means mockery. And the wolf that chases the moon is named Hattie. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that one right, but Hattie, which means hate. So a wolf named Mockery is chasing the sun. And part of Ragnarok, part of the events that usher in Ragnarok, is that the wolf chasing the sun will catch the sun and consume it. So Nux is calling himself Skull, meaning mockery, which is catching the sun, ushering in Ragnarok.
And of course, Ragnarok is the big cataclysmic end of all things.
It's the apocalypse.
Yeah. So when Nux says, "I'm the one who catches the sun," it means I'm an embodiment of an element of apocalypse.
He's also saying that he is an embodiment of an element of the creation and existence myths of mockery. So I think unknowingly, he is making a mockery of the Norse mythology.
As he's on his way to Valhalla.
Yes. I think that might come back to bite him.
Which means, like, technically, yes, and also there's an element of Icarus in this, too.
Absolutely.
Because he flies too close to the sun. He doesn't catch it and burns himself instead.
Yeah, I like that he's trying to be Skull to consume the sun, and he fails at thus becoming Icarus.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, he's bouncing between myths, and neither one of them really work out that great.
We need to remember this, because there is going to be an interaction that we have later on in the movie involving Nux, where he's going to repeat this idea again. Okay. The idea of someone grabbing the sun.
All right.
We won't talk about it this week. It's coming later on down the line, eventually. Somewhere in the next half hour.
I think it would be remiss as well to talk about the fact that Nux is essentially making himself into like a suicide bomb to ram himself into a thing in order to save the day, much like the character of Finn in Star Wars The Last Jedi. It's like, how much of that damn trilogy take from Mad Max Fury Road here? Sorry, I just like that occurred to me like 15 minutes ago. I was like, I better make sure to bring that up.
What I like about this scene where Nux is turning his car into a rolling bomb is that Max has seen a lot of this already. He knows what the spray means. He knows what shouting witness means because he saw it back when we had Morsov leaping off the fuel pod to attack the buzzards. And so Max is sitting there outside of this back window, and he's watching Nux open up all these valves. And it looks pretty crazy, filling your car with gasoline. Anyone would look at that and say, huh, that's strange. But Max sees Nux do the spray. He hears him shout witness, and he instantly recognizes, oh, hey, yeah, that's the suicide thing. I better try and stop this.
Yeah, there's a distinct moment where, like, when Nux says to him, like, you know, repeats, like, witness, it has a close-up of Max staring at him. And there's a look of recognition, and that's when he starts to furiously kind of pound on the back window with even more intensity than before. So it's again too, just looking at that shot, it's just like those spikes in that mask are so close to those eyes. It's just freaking me out looking at it. I can't take it.
So Max is crouched in the back of the Nux car, and as we mentioned, he's hammering on the rear window. And one thing that I like about it is that Max is not hammering with his bare fist. He's taken the slack in the chain and he's wrapped it around his arm, and he's using that to punch the glass. Because if you've ever punched a window with your bare fist, I don't know how many people have, but glass can be kind of hard and a bit rough on your knuckles. So if you can reinforce your hand somehow, yeah, cool, do it. It also helps contain the fact that there's this gigantic long chain coming down from Max's head to the door and then attached to Nux. It helps contain it a little bit and make it not flapping around in the wind there. It's a good way to control it.
I like that he already had it wrapped around his fist. And it could be, and it definitely makes sense, that, yeah, he was picking up the slack so that he couldn't accidentally be blown off, that it couldn't get caught on something. I think that he was already planning on punching out that back window. He just chose that moment to start because he saw the spray paint and the gasoline and had a renewed motivation to get this done now. So I think he was already planning on punching out the window. He just sped things up a little.
Yeah, and as we see, it is effective. It is a strategy that he conceives, executes, and succeeds in. He punches out that back window, and as he pushes all of the broken glass aside, he goes to reach for something. Nux initially, just to grab him, but Nux pulls out a tool. He pulls out the road flare, and he lights it by rubbing it across the top of the car, and he is going to just turn that flare over and plunge it down in the gasoline. Of course, Max is like, no, I would rather that not happen. And as Max goes to reach for Nux, he's still got the majority of the chain wrapped up around his arm. So when Nux pulls down, it pulls Max out.
Yeah, it's this really bizarre tug of war wrapping around the outside of the car. Mm-hmm. Only one of them can be effective at any given time.
Yeah.
And it's about here that we get the line from Nux, I live, I die, I live again. That also, in looking up about eating the sun, I also learned that when Ragnarok is all over and said and done, the world will rise again.
Oh.
Which I never knew that about Ragnarok. Ragnarok, as it's spoken of in the media, especially now that there's a movie called Ragnarok, it seems very final. Like, nope, this is the end. We're done after this. That's not the case. The world and the Norse pantheon will rise again. So I don't know if that's what he's referring to, that he will live, he will die, and he will live again, but it definitely goes along with that mythology.
Well, Ragnarok brings about like a clean slate, basically. Like a peaceful time, which is weird for like Vikings and warriors, but like, you know, people gotta have a party and to like drink in the halls and have debaucherous times. Yeah. Because they deserved
Vikings
it.
enjoy their downtime too.
Yeah.
I think this is actually the first time we hear the I live, I die, I live again thing. Sure, we had Immortan Joe saying, I will raise you from the ashes of this world, but this specifically, I think this is the first time that we've ever entertained the idea of a life outside of this apocalypse. And I'm not sure if he's talking about a life in Valhalla or if he's referring to something more akin to reincarnation or resurrection.
Because this is the first time it's been brought up, we don't really have any clues as to what he means by that, because it could be interpreted in many, many different ways.
My interpretation of when he said it was like, I live, I die, I live again, is that it's approaching into the afterlife. Like, I'm going to live again in the afterlife. That was my interpretation of it, rather than a flat-out resurrection. But we were talking about, though, the idea, though, that he's bringing about riding to Valhalla and stuff as well. Obviously, going into the afterlife. But like, you were talking earlier, though, about like the man who catches the sun and stuff, which was kind of talking about bringing about the apocalypse. And it's like, how does he think this is going to cause an apocalypse? Like, it's only the only person this is going to cause an apocalypse for is him, really, and Max, obviously, as well, and presumably Furiosa. So it's a sort of I'm not too sure what. I guess he just telling himself whatever to get through this whole situation to make himself feel better. But it's more to think about. It's a very odd thing to say in this specific situation. Like, all you're planning to do is blow up yourself and like 2 other people. Well, as far as you know, actually, several more people. Obviously, have all the wives and stuff within the war rig as well.
It's poetic in a way.
Yeah, I don't think he has enough foresight to like think post Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I think it's just like, let me die, get a warrior's death, meet all my friends, have a couple beers, hang out.
The Norse love their songs of glory. And to frame yourself as Skull, the great wolf who grabs the sun, pretty cool.
I have to say, I feel just really bad for, again, of course I feel bad for Max in this situation because it's a pretty terrible situation. But even the fact that he's punched in that back window and he's originally trying to grab Nux, even that's a no-win situation. Because if you grab him, what are you going to do through that little hole in the window? Like, what are you going to do? Like, if you grab him and distract him from driving, he's just going to drive off the road or into the tornado, or he's going to flip the car, or that in itself is introducing another element of, added danger and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, your best case scenario is that, he doesn't get to light the flare and he crashes and flips the car, and you yourself might survive, but it's unlikely. And even if you do, you're going to be on foot in the middle of this giant friggin' storm.
Max has shown his fighting style in this movie to be very much, what can I do to improve my situation just for this very second? Not so much thinking about how is this going to help me live in the long run.
Yeah.
The fight that we saw him have with the group of war boys back in the Citadel, he had some really great moments, but then he hit a dead end with those moments. They didn't take him anywhere. They didn't help him survive. But in the moment, it was the right decision. And that's the same thing here. He could stop the flare from going in the gasoline, and that would be great. But he doesn't think about what next after that. Mm-hmm. After that, there's still a lit flare and a pool of gasoline, and he's still chained to this guy.
Yeah.
And there's still a tornado outside.
That's a problem for future Max to worry about.
Exactly.
Well, I feel like that's the decision-making style of pretty much everybody in this movie.
Yeah. What's the right decision for right now? Not for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 2 hours.
Then
or
5
2
minutes,
days.
10 minutes, 2 hours from now, they're like, crap.
Yeah.
I do kind of like the idea, though, of Mel Gibson Max thinking, like, oh, that's a problem for future Max, that Tom Hardy guy. He'll have to deal with that.
The next Max can worry about that one.
Exactly. Speaking of plans, so Nux has filled his car with gasoline, and he is positioning his car in front of the war rig. And I think the idea that he has is that he is going to explode his car in front of the war rig, and it's going to damage the rig in such a way that the rig has to stop.
Yes. And that actually seems like a really good plan.
Yeah. If you destroy the front end of that truck, it's not going to keep going.
No. And we see down the road that Nux is mechanically inclined. So he knows exactly, stop those engines and you stop the war rig. Mm-hmm. And he knows that attacking the tanker or the fuel pod behind is not going to be as efficient as going straight for those engines.
Mm-hmm. But of course, this task is proving more difficult because Max is pulling on the other end of the chain and Nux is also fighting a lost tire. And so he's struggling to stay in front of the war rig. And you can add into that the fact that his roof hatch is starting to peel back and eventually the wind just snatches it right away. Like, it's gone. He's not getting that back.
Perfect opportunity for Max to reach in and do his thing.
And the thing is, then the ensuing tumble. Actually, to be fair, the ensuing tumble looks worse than like any tumble he would have had just grabbing Nux in general. So
yeah.
I suppose like Mad Max's life is just like, it's all a no-win situation, pretty much. It's like whatever day you get up, it's like, it's gonna be a bad day. Like they're all bad days. I'm just trying to get by.
No more lovely days.
I love this tumble because Nux raises up the flare, the roof hatch flies off, and Nux is ready to thrust it down. His arm is stopped by Max, who has jumped over the top of the car, but Nux still slams on the brake because the idea was you slam on the brake and then when the truck hits you, you blow up the gasoline, disable the vehicle. But he only executes half of that plan, the brake plan, and as the war rig plows into the back of Nux's car, miraculously the gasoline doesn't splash up into the flare and ignite the whole thing.
Yeah, I call shenanigans. Nux's plan was nearly foolproof. How did it not blow up?
The laws of nature don't apply here.
Yeah.
Welcome to the toxic storm where none of the rules apply.
Yeah.
And in case anybody is wondering, yes, this is a moment where the CinemaSins guys say they survive this.
Yeah.
I look at this situation and I just go back to Max is a fairy princess. He can take a lot of damage. And with all this air and sand blowing around, I'm sure there are plenty of soft dunes for him to fall into. Right?
I mean, if I had a big problem with the method of surviving, and this will go into your next week, is that he wakes up with his face in a pile of sand. And it's like, wouldn't he have suffocated? That was my big, like, I could take him surviving this. my problem was like, oh, he's face first in sand for presumably several hours. And he doesn't say no problems breathing in that, but like, oh, now I'm becoming the CinemaSin guy.
No, I'm just thinking about he'll land into a cute bolt of lightning, but like, that's just me.
Like he's flying through the air and then a gust will come along and it'll gingerly catch him and then lower him to the ground and
He is
cover
the
him in nice
chosen
warm
one.
sand. Plot convenience. It just goes to show you can't kill Max. You can throw him in a Thunderdome. You can toss him off of any sort of number of things. I would have a more impressive list if I had thought about this ahead of time, but I'm totally off the cuff at this point. You can do whatever you want to Max. It's not going to stop him.
It could be like a genuinely interesting spin if they introduce the idea that Max is actually genuinely immortal and he's just cursed to live in this world where he can't die. Like, he would welcome death. But he just says, I'm just trying to get to New Zealand to find these mutant sheep guys. Like, that's all I want. But it's like, I know I'm going to survive this. But it's just like, oh my gosh, everything about this is so inconvenient for me.
Maybe that's why he puts himself into like these horrible conditions. He's like, maybe this time I will die.
It's like some sort of weird post-apocalyptic quantum leap. Maybe this scenario is finally going to be the one that sends me home.
There'll be a scene of Tom Hardy looking into a mirror, and it'll be Mel Gibson. And it's like, no, he just jumped into another body.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of the week. Johnie and Niall, thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been fun.
Oh, thank you very much for having us, Rick and Julia, of course. Well, the thing, I absolutely love this movie, so I was more than happy to come on to talk about it. I'd forgotten how good it was, actually. Like, in watching it again this week, because I hadn't seen it really since the cinema, and I was just okay. I remember liking that. Okay, and then watching it this week, I was like, holy crap, this is a good movie. This is a solid piece of work. So yeah, I'm more than happy to talk about it anytime.
I was prepping last night for recording, and I was like, yeah, I was talking to Mark, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be on with Rick and Julia tomorrow. And he's like, well, what are you doing? I was like, Fury Road. He goes, what? You're on Fury Road? He's like, they're on that already? And I was like, yeah. Are you jealous? So I had a fun time.
To seeing Rick now furiously written down his list, I guess, like, Mark. Hope he likes end credits.
Well, here at the end, Johnie, where can people hear more of you if they want to find you on the internet?
If you want to and if you care, if you just so desire, you can go and look up Austin Powers Minute on any podcatcher pretty much and find us on Facebook the same way. Join the society that we all like to post memes in, and something about astronaut ice cream last week in the Electric Psychedelic Pussycat Swingers Club. Spoiler, it's disgusting. So don't do that to yourself. But yeah, come find us and talk to everybody who's been on and who is fans.
And Niall, tell us a little bit about Batminute.
Batminute is doing what you guys are doing, only with the Batman movies. Specifically the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher Batman movies. We can't touch the Dark Knight movies because there's another podcast covering those a minute at a time. But we just finished the entirety of Batman 89. Actually, at this point, maybe I'm not too sure when this will air, but we might even be entirely done with Batman Returns. And we're moving on to Batman Forever some point in late 2019. But yeah, you get me and my co-host John, and of course everyone who's been in these episodes as well. Like Rick and Julia, you were on in Batman Returns talking, like, making a direct through line between Immortan Joe and Max Schreck and how essentially they're the same character. And then, Johnie was on at one point. I think we talked about like which Muppets would play which Batman characters and stuff. It was a fun week. And we got the that and more, a whole congregation of different guests. And you can find us on all your usual podcatchers and your iTunes and all that stuff. Just just Google Batminute. We'll pop up somewhere.
I know people will probably scoff at the idea of covering Batman Forever, but I will always be reminded that Batman Forever is the one with Australia's own Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase Meridian.
Yes. I felt really bad too, because it's like, not to get into much into what we'll be covering in the next season of the show, but like the fact that they've gone through, and we've particularly seen it in recording this season, because we've had quite a few female guests on for Batman It Returns. We had quite a few in the first movie as well, but they're more enthusiastic for the second movie because of Catwoman, and they just love Catwoman as a character. And then to go from that level of female representation to jump off the cliff into Dr. Chase Meridian for an entire movie.
Yep.
It kind of makes you go, like, at least Batman and Robin had Batgirl and Poison Ivy. Like, at least it did that right. Batman Forever has got, like, its presentation of female characters is atrocious. But yeah, that's our... Apart from that, though, apparently a lot of people really surprisingly looking forward to getting into that movie. We got a lot of enthusiastic guests who said, I can't wait to come back for Batman Forever.
Well, with a theme song like Kiss from a Rose, how can you not be excited?
I'll give you that one, yeah.
One thing that you guys like to do over there on Batminute is you have fun little outros. Niall, could you grace us with a Batminute style outro for this week?
I'll try. Let's have a crack at this, because I'm not. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I've never had one given to me, so I'm just like, oh my god. Now I see what it's like. It's, this is horrible. I shouldn't ask people to do this. Okay, so next time, a flare flops after a failed conflagration allows Furiosa to flee. Then, a sandy survivor surfaces from a short slumber to find his senses spoiled. Will our resilient road warrior recover his sovereignty, or is he cursed to be chained to his captor? Find out next time. Same max time, different max minute.
The Mad Max Minute podcast is a fan project by Rick and Julia Ingham.
The Mad Max franchise was created by George Miller and Byron Kennedy, is presented by Kennedy Miller Mitchell Productions, and distributed by Warner Brothers.
Mad Max Minute is produced and edited by Rick Ingham. Our opening music is Verdi's Dies Irae by Daniel Bautista of danielbautista.com.
Our home on the internet is madmaxminute.com. You can follow us on Twitter at madmaxminute, like us on Facebook by searching for Mad Max Minute, and join our Facebook listener group, Mad Max Minute Beyond Microphone.
If you'd like to support the podcast, visit madmaxminute.com, where you can see what's in our TeePublic store, join our Patreon, or even donate to the show to help us keep the tanks full.
Thank you for joining us for Minute 30 of Fury Road. We'll see you next time.